Hi everyone, you're watching the Handicap Rugby Chat That Matters on Good for the Game TV. It's Thursday night at 9 o'clock. Make a note of this time because we're going to be talking Six Nations, and from next week we're going to be talking Super Rugby matches. We've got sort of 6 matches a weekend. We're going to be getting the panel to go through them all from a betting angle, so there's going to be plenty of rugby to chat about. And I think a lot of us have probably carried on punting over the last few months, but we've had a bit of a break from rugby and we're all gagging to get going and get betting. Well, before you do anything else, make sure you go to the bottom of this video, subscribe to our channel, hit the little button, and you'll be notified of any new videos we're going to be putting up. There's going to be plenty coming over the coming rugby-filled months. Well, I've got 2 guys here to talk Six Nations, a bit of Super Rugby, and even perhaps a little bit of Varsity Cup towards the end of the show. And let's start off down in Cape Town with Hein Dumont. Hein, welcome to the show, and great to see you writing like crazy on the Good for the Game website.
Thanks, Brent. Yeah, I'm trying to get stuck in with the writing, so it's actually kept me quite busy this week, but at least that means my homework's been done well in advance this time around. I haven't started looking at the teams an hour beforehand, so I'm a little bit better prepared for this show this time around. So let's see if maybe it works better, or whether it should just wing it a little bit more.
Well, look forward to seeing what you've got to say there. And then Hendrik Swart, also down in the Cape. You're in the Eastern Cape, of course. He's down in the Western Cape. Good to have you on the show, Hendrik. I don't have to ask you if you're doing your homework, because I normally get messages from you on like a Monday talking about the week's handicaps already.
Yeah, Brent. Now I try and get homework early, get started early in the week. Yeah, I read a lot of articles about rugby, and I look at past results and look at the weather, look at who's refereeing the game, all that sort of stuff. And I've got a bit of preview that I write for myself every week. So nice homework.
Excellent. Well, that's good stuff. Just a welcome to the guys on the live chat as well. Look forward to seeing what you fancy. Chris Sturdy saying the Sona State of the Nation, Six Nations address, Italy plus and England minus. So that's a good one from Chris there, because of course I think we're competing time-wise with the State of the Nation. And let's see what the state of our bookmakers' accounts are going to be after the weekend. And guys, we've got 3 Six Nations games to talk with. And Henrik, I'll start with you. Let's start with Italy up against Wales. Italy last week coming back, they lost about 13 points to Scotland. But let's face it, at one stage they were absolutely well beat. Looked like losing the handicap. They got a few late tries. But is this handicap too big? 19.5 points at home against the Welsh?
Yeah, Brent, I see the handicap has come in a bit. I think it opened up at about 22.5. I think the 19.5 is good. I got some 21.5 at 8-10 Italy. So yeah, I see Wales haven't picked their strongest team. Biggest starting, and that's actually better than last week, because Anscombe wasn't very good in the first half against France. But yeah, Italy, they impressed against Scotland, and yeah, I think Italy can run them close here. I think this handicap is a bit too big. Yeah, I got Italy correct last week on the first half handicap, but I also went for Scotland to win by 21-30 at 3-1 just before the game. I made that bet, and with a few minutes left, I thought that bet was in the back, and then Italy came back. So Italy actually impressed, and they actually scored way more points than I expected. So they're not just trying to score, they can actually score a few tries as well. So I think they can run them really close here.
I guess the only worry from an Italy point of view there is that those tries really came in the last 10 minutes of the game, when I know Scotland were down to 14 men and perhaps had switched off a little bit. And I guess now at home, the challenge for them is to play like that from the start of the game and get some points against the Welsh.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You can, if you don't want to go for the full-time handicap, you can go for the double-digit first half handicap on Italy. If you can get 10.5, well, 9.5 should be good as well, because they're a very good first half team, especially when they're playing at home. So yeah, I think it should at least be a close first half.
Right. Well, I think, Hein, if I recall, you were also on the Italy halftime handicap, and I wasn't on it, but I think it was quite a nerve-wracking thing at the end of the day. It did arrive, but if I'm not mistaken, Scotland was sort of pressing right at the end there with the potential to score a try, but you guys survived that and got to fight on in week 2.
Yes, Brent, we scraped in with that one, fortunately, and obviously we also had the Welsh sneaking in there against France. So it was both bets took some sweating, and the third one was a loser. So it wasn't the best. It was a good result, but it wasn't exactly how we planned it to go. So hopefully this week it'll it'll go a bit more according to script. But I'm with Hendrik on that one, and I'm pretty firm on the halftime handicap. I still think I think Italy will take a little bit of confidence out of how they ended that game last week. So hopefully they'll start with a bit of a pep in their step. Happy to be home, and then Wales, I can't believe how many changes they made. I mean, that's very surprising. The pack is completely different almost. So there's a lot of changes, a new fly off and scrum off. So no, I think it'll take them some time to settle into a rhythm. So everything is shouting first half handicap for me. I also wanted to try and get 10.5, but the best I could get is 8.5, and I see 9.5, and I see a few books of moving to 8.5. So I'm pretty happy being on the 9.5 first half handicap at the moment, Brent.
Yeah, you enjoy those first half handicaps, and I must agree with you there. And certainly with all those changes in the Welsh team, I'm with you guys there. First of all, I do like the overall handicap. I have missed the early value that Henrik got at 21.5, but I'll be looking at around about the 18.5, 19.5 levels there. Anything else, Hein, that appeals to you in that game? You're going to be looking at any try scorers, anytime try scorers, first try scorers, or is this perhaps a game not to get too involved in, given that you've got two other big games to come?
Brent, I think actually the biggest thing for me was seeing that George North isn't playing, and I backed him as top try scorer in the tournament, and he's already sitting on 2, and then they go and not play him against Italy. So that was a shocker. So I'm just a little bit disappointed in Wales at the moment. So I'm not getting too involved there. I'm licking my wounds and trying to see if I can't jump ship to Elliot Daly or someone at 12-1 or something like that, because I'm a bit miffed at resting your 2 try scoring winger.
I must say, just before we go on to the next game, that's happened to me a few times in various things like World Cup tournaments and that, where I placed a top try scorer bet, and I banked on that. Okay, now they're going to be playing against Georgia or something like that. And what do? They go and sit the guy out, and you can't believe it. So when you place those bets, I guess that's one of those things that can happen. Because I thought of you when George North went through for those 2 tries. I thought, in the Six Nations, which we're all expecting is going to turn into a low-scoring contest, albeit the first weekend had quite a few points. You've got to think that 2 tries, he's going to be right there. He probably still will be behind. That's the one thing I can say. But if you had to pick one game you didn't want him to miss, it would have been Italy.
No, exactly. You were always banking on one at least against Italy, and it was a bit of a bonus, the two against France. And as you say, you could be winning it on 4 tries or something like that. So another one against Italy, and he could have been 1 away. So no, that was a bit disappointing. But we live to fight another. It was quite decent odds. So it's not like you had a big bet. But no, in that one I would have looked at Moriarty or maybe a scrum off to nip over for a try. But for second stringers, I'm not really going to get too involved on that one. Maybe one of the other wingers, but usually their odds are going to be short against Italy. So it's just not really worth it. And the Italians are, if you want to back a South African, back a guy with a South African surname, a Stein or someone, if you really want to get involved.
You'll struggle to find a guy with an Italian surname. Henrik, just to come on to you quickly, first of all, any final comments on this game? And then just a general comment. I know last week you were saying you'd found, I think it was at Sporting Bet, I was under 692 points or something. I think you're still a big runner there, but I guess the week one didn't go quite according to plan. There was a lot more points than I was expecting.
No, it was a horrible start to that bet, Brent. It was under 693.5 at 7 to 10, so the skinny odds as well. But it's a horrible start. That France game looked all right in the beginning, and then when France went 3 scores, I knew Wales had to chase, so it was bound to be points in that game. And then the English game I labelled as a low-scoring game. I didn't think we'd get 30 points in that game. Then there was a lot of points there. So I took a bit of a knock there. I took the same bet as you did with the under 3.5 tries there.
Oh, jeez.
And I took a big smack in that game. That game actually had me overall down for the weekend. Not the best of starts on the points bet. Hopefully this weekend can be better. From my confidence has taken a bit of a knock with the points, and I've got a pretty big outright bet on the unders on points, so I'm going to stay out of the points this weekend and just hope there's a few low-scoring games.
I hope things get a little bit scrappy. Yeah, certainly that France-Wales game in particular, when it started raining, I really thought things would tighten up, and then the points just seemed to flow. Henrik, I'll stay with you, though. Let's move on to Scotland against Ireland. Many people seen this as the game of the weekend. We've got Scotland, who were impressive for large parts, but of course it was against Italy. And Ireland, who really did underperform against England, although you'd argue that England made them underperform. And I saw comments in the previous show, the likes of yourself, I think, expecting something of an Ireland backlash and an Ireland win on the handicap.
Yeah, I'm expecting a big backlash from the Irish. Joe Smith would have been into the guys this week, and Andy Farrell as well. He wouldn't have been happy with that defensive performance. But yeah, in England, the tactics were brilliant, and they put them under a lot of pressure with the rush defense. And Farrell, Sexton couldn't get the ball away, so they put a lot of pressure on Sexton and Murray. But yeah, I'm not sure whether the Scots are going to be able to put the same amount of pressure on them. So I'm expecting the Irish to fire here, and I think the Irish on the minus is a very good bet. Yeah.
Right. Let's go down to Couch Critic. Couch, are you nodding your head, or are you looking to fire into the Scots?
No, I'm just deciding how exactly to get involved with Ireland, because I'm very interested there. I agreed with what you guys said in the previous show. Actually, is that the Scots just don't have the grunt up front to put the same kind of pressure on Ireland that England did. And when Sexton plays with the front foot, he's a different player. So I think Ireland are just gonna boss the game in the way that they like to do it. Put it in the corners and get their big ball runners, getting them over the advantage line, and just slowly but surely winning the arm wrestle. So I mean, I don't think it's going to be particularly pretty from them. I think Scotland actually played a nice brand of rugby, but I just don't think they're going to be physical and intense enough to really dominate the collisions or the front battle. So it's Ireland all the way for me, and it's a toss-up there between Ireland to win both halves. I'm interested in that one. Ireland to win both halves at 7-4 with Sunbet. That's a nice one. And then Ireland half-time, full-time, 10-11, and obviously the handicap. So I'm pretty much spreading my bets there, maybe getting a bit greedy on the both halves bet, but I think Ireland will squeak the first half and definitely take the second half. So I think it's a decent price.
Well, Helthart Werner just commenting that if Ireland kicks so much ball away again, they may struggle with Scotland. They've got some good runners from the backfield. Guys, we don't have Oracle Rugby. I never mentioned it at the start. Oracle, well, I did mention that he couldn't make it, but I'd like to think Oracle's with us in spirit. And to prove that, I'm going with Scotland this weekend, gentlemen. I'm sorry. I'm going with the Scots. My thinking behind this game, look, it's not a confident call for me, but I really do like the Scotland team. I think at home they're going to be tough. They won 3 out of their last 4 at home against Ireland. Admittedly, Ireland haven't been as strong as past years, but I'd argue that Scotland haven't been as strong either. But for me, it's more about the Irish defeat last week. Where's their mindset at the moment? Is it a case of, are we going to bounce back from that and we're going to perform much better? And there's every chance it would happen. Or is it a case of maybe their confidence took a little bit of a dent last week and Scotland might be ready to exploit that? And also a case of, in their minds, I'm wondering if they think the Six Nations is almost gone already. That game against England was so pivotal. And I'm getting a sneaky feeling that Scotland could do it. And I'm going to pull an oracle here, and I'm going to say Scotland on the board at 22-10.
Sure.
Good luck with that one, Brent.
A bit of an apprehensive look on the other, but I actually do like the Scots to push the Irish close. So it won't be a big bet for me, but I actually think we're going to see a really, really close encounter, and I wouldn't put anyone off the 1-12 margins here either.
I mean, don't get me wrong, Brent. I think I love the way Scotland play, but they small oaks up front. I don't know. They can't beat the other whiskey drinkers up front. It's just Furlong and those guys best. I mean, that's just a little bit more dirty grunt. Those guys can go work for the IRS. They can really make things happen. And I don't think the Grey boys and Josh Strauss is going to be tough enough to handle what they're going to get up front there.
Well, I see Weepy Nell is out as well on the Good for the Game forum. Someone pointing that out. And Henrik, that I guess is a big factor.
Yeah, that is a big factor. I agree with Ian on the forwards. I think the Irish should be much stronger than the Scots. And for me, the big thing where England scored, they scored off mistakes from Ireland and pressure against Ireland. And I'm not sure whether the Scots are going to be able to put the same kind of pressure on Ireland. And the Irish defence should be much better. The defence were very good last year under Andy Farrell, and I'm expecting the defence to be very good this weekend. Right.
Well, that's the Scotland v Ireland games. I'm going against the boys there. Let's move on to the final game on Sunday, where I think I might be going against them as well, and that's England up against France. And Henrik, will stay with you there. I haven't looked all over the place. I must say it's been a bit of a busy week for me, but I did see a GG Gaming minus 12.5 England, plus 12.5 France. It's a big handicap, and I guess it is based on the fact that England were just so impressive last week, and I suppose France imploded in that second half.
Yeah, I just can't trust the French, especially when they're traveling. And England, they were very impressive last week, and I think they've got the centre combination right. They have to keep Mane Tuilagi at 12. He's very good at 12 for them with Henry Slade. And yeah, I like the English here, and Eddie Jones. I've always rated him as a very good coach. He was under pressure last year. Everybody's saying it's John Mitchell that's come in. Well, John Mitchell, he tends to make a good start wherever he goes, but I think it's Eddie Jones as well. Eddie, he analysed the Irish brilliantly, and he had the right tactics. So I think you'll be with the French. You'll know what to do against the French, and at Twickenham, yeah, it's tough to go against England at Twickenham. So I think England should beat the minus 12.5. Yeah.
All right, let's go down to Couch Critic. Couch, you on the handicap? Half-time handicap?
I was just going to say with John Mitchell, I think the more you get to do with him, the less you like him. So as Hendrik says, he usually starts well and then he irritates enough people to be asked to bugger off. I think on this one, it's a real chance that it could be an overreaction of the England one good performance. But I'm with Hendrik on this one. I think the centre combination is better. Farrell eventually now settling into that fly-off role. That's the way it should be. I think they're starting to find their best combination and finding what works for them. So I think they might not necessarily go from strength to strength in each game. But, I mean, what do France take from last week? They dominated the game. They should have won it. They didn't. They lost. They're going away from home. I don't know. I just can't see France turning things around there and saying, okay, let's go and repeat what we did and this time take it one further. So I actually think the focus to me is more on France being dejected and England, yes, they'll have a pep in their step. So I'm liking England, and actually the one I'm going to go for is England on the second half cap. I think it might be tough to start with, and then England will find their rhythm and unleash the guys at the back. So I'm going to go for, I haven't seen a cap yet on the second half cap. There wasn't one out when I looked at Sunbet, but I'm sure it will be low enough for me to get involved.
Well, we've got some different views. I think most guys favouring you chaps with England, and the forum Helcott Werner reckons France will be demotivated and England will give them a bit of a clap. Emil Korf, I think, suggesting that the French will be pretty motivated against the English, as they always are. And I must say this fixture historically, this bet, if you did back France plus, I think it would have arrived 4 of the last 5 runnings at Twickenham. So going to be very interesting to see what we get in that game. Just to sum up the games, really, I think we're all in agreement on the Italy plus. You preferring the halftime handicap there, Hein. I'm going against you guys a little bit in the Irish game, even though I still love the Irish and I'm hoping they win the World Cup. And we're pretty much leaning against you in the French game. But Hein, what is your best bet then for the Six Nations?
Brent, I'm going to go for Ireland halftime, full time. I think they'll do the business there, 10 to 11 at Sunbet. And then lastly, I'm just going to say, Emil, don't waste any of those free bets on France there, my man.
Yeah, Emil, of course, a prolific winner on the GG Gaming Guy Mad Show, which is on at 8:30 every Thursday night before the handicap. Hendrik, your best bet?
Brent, I'm going for one that my good mate Johan Lapsche mentioned on Twitter to you as well today.
Yes.
The shorter odds, but lower handicap. I'm going for a double of Ireland minus 3.5 onto England minus 4.5, just over even money.
Yeah. Now, Johan, let's talk about him for a while, because he's been on Twitter for many years and he does share his bets. And I mean, in my experience, he's got a very good strike rate, and he likes to load up a couple of shorter prices to get sort of 12 to 10, 14 to 10. Somewhere around there. I often want to retweet his stuff, but I can't because he's actually got a private Twitter account, which you don't see that much these days. But he's one of the shrewd punters, and I know, Hendrik, you're a great believer in networks of punters, guys, and that's what we do on the Good for the Game forum. But obviously, there's things like Twitter, WhatsApp, all of that sort of stuff. The more information you can get, and the more you can feed off others who know the game, the better.
Yeah, me and Johan, we actually studied together, so we know each other for about almost 20 years now. And we live close to each other as well. So, and we speak about rugby every day, every single day.
I believe he's finishing his degree next year, eh?
Good one.
Too much rugby.
Yeah. No, well, we immediately connected when we started studying together because we both loved rugby and we speak rugby a lot. But he's a very shrewd punter, and yeah, like you say, he likes to put a few shorter prices together and get even money or just better. But then he takes some strikes on the handicaps as well, and yeah, his account is protected. I'm not sure why he does that, so you can't retweet. I always wanted to retweet his tweets, and you can't retweet it. But yeah, he's a very good punter.
Yeah, unprotect your account, and then we can retweet you. Funny you mentioned that, though. I remember coming into contact with both of you, and I can't remember if it was forum, Twitter, or what, but pretty much at the same time. So obviously, I think when you guys were coming out of varsity, that's probably how long we've known each other, when you were starting your betting and stuff. So it certainly has been a while. But that's wrapped up our Six Nations bets. I am going to go, and I must admit I'm influenced by my good old mate Brendan O'Connell. Did say to me he likes the French, but he's a bit like me. He's got a bit of a love affair with him, so not sure how serious we take it. But I do fancy the French to perhaps run the English close at Twickenham, going for the plus 12.5. But I don't think I'm as strong as any of these chaps. Guys, we're 1 week away from Super Rugby. There's going to be an avalanche of games. I know, Henrik, we spoke about it last week. You've got so much money down already. You're already looking at the opening games. But is there anything that over the last week that has caught your eye that perhaps you didn't mention last week?
Yeah, Brent, I have a few long-term bets down that I mentioned last week, and then about 3 weeks ago now, I backed the Blues at plus 12 at GG at 8 to 10. So I see that has come in. Yeah, the good old Blues, eh? I just hope that we always go for the Blues and then it always disappoint. But with Leon McDonald being the coach, I like that. And yeah, they've got a few good players in. So yeah, at home, yeah, the Crusaders, they didn't start slow last year, but hopefully that trend will go again. I just feel that double figures, it was too big, and even with the current plus, I give the Blues a chance to win the game against Crusaders. And then, yeah, I see someone posted on the forum about the Japanese players being out for the Sunwolves. And I like the Sharks this year, so I think I'll get onto the Sharks -9. It's currently available. I think that should go out at least 3 or 4 points come kickoff. And then the other one I like is also with one which Johan and we spoke about, the Waratahs plus 7.5 against the Hurricanes in Sydney. I think the Waratahs can win that game as well.
Right, yeah, I see you did tweet me on that one as well. So that's Super Rugby. Of course, we're going to be having probably a very lengthy show next week talking about all the Super Rugby handicaps. Let's go across to Couch. Couch, I see you you're writing there, Bet Olymp, sponsoring your blogs there on the Good for the Game website. And you're writing a bit of Six Nations stuff, and I'm sure you'll be throwing some Super Rugby previews in as well.
No, definitely that's gonna happen from next week, and I like Heinrich's start. Quite a few of his players. I mean, that early one on the Lions, I think, is a good one. I don't think they're gonna feature. Also in the first week, I actually think the New Zealand teams, you might have to swerve early on. I think they might be like a few of our guys. The All Blacks have been slow getting back. So, I mean, Baden Barrett is still on honeymoon. So guys like the Hurricanes and the Crusaders and the Crusaders in any case are usually notorious slow starters, except for last year. But so those are decent punts. And again, I like the Blues as well. Everything they say, obviously, I'm not going to go chuck money on them to win the competition, but I think they could be some value to back in some way, shape, or form. And then the only one I'm really starting to reconsider, I followed Hendrik on the 12-1 on the Sharks a little bit, and I was thinking about getting involved more, but after being at the superhero game there, I must say my fears have been confirmed. I just don't see the Sharks clicking together. I know they had a lot of guys out there, but I don't think they've got much of a game plan. They're a counter-attacking team. And the more I look at it, the Stormers on paper, if they can shut out whatever happens off field, run with blinkers this season, the Stormers about 6-1 to win the South African Conference. I think that's where I'm going to be heading for some action.
Right. Well, that Stormers Bulls game was certainly action packed, and I know Bulls had much closer to a full strength side. Funny enough, I'm now also leaning a bit towards the Bulls for the conference, also around about the 5-1 mark you can get them. So I think we can say that this conference is wide open. I mean, certainly the likes of Hendrik have got 12-1 on the Sharks. I mean, that really was, I believe, and it's going to turn out to be a great price. But the bottom line is all of us are saying the Lions are just not value Hendrik at 5-10 or anything under probably 2-1, quite frankly.
Yeah, me and Hein, we're actually going for each other's teams because I know Hein's a Shark supporter and I'm well, I don't these days. I don't support it as much anymore, but I'm a Stormers supporter, so we're going against each other teams. But yeah, at the price the Lions 5 to 10 the last I saw, you just can't back them at that price. And yeah, to lock money down at 5 to 10 for such a long period doesn't make sense anyway as well. So yeah, I like your Bulls as well, Brent. I think they should be a runner. They will definitely be there. They've recruited very well. Just not convinced about the coaching team, but they've got a bit of a benefit being at altitude always that's in their favour. So yeah, I think at 5 to 1 they should be runners.
Excellent. Well, that brings us to the end of the Super Rugby chat. Before we go there, I know you in particular wanted to just have a quick chat on Varsity Cup. I didn't get to watch the early game this week, but I did watch Marty's against Wits. And Marty's, I know Hendrik, they didn't impress him. And I'd argue likewise, but I was actually quite impressed by Wits.
Yes, definitely, Brent. That's exactly what I wanted to say. Is Wits was pretty impressive, but still, it's just there's no ways. I think every season Marty's will just start as exuberant favourites because that's just what they do. They perennially win the Varsity Cup, but I think it's one of those years where they've lost quite a lot of players and they have to rebuild. And I just don't see this as being their year. So I think you can take your pick at someone else and get some value. Obviously, Puka look decent, and at 22 to 10, you can throw them into some of your Super Rugby multiples or something at a decent price. Or otherwise, even go for a long shot of Shimlas at 12 or 14 to 1 or Tux, I think, are 6 to 1. But somewhere, if you got a fancy or you got some inside info, back anyone except Marty's, I think they're way overrated in that.
Right, Marty's too short there at around about the 16 to 10 mark. Henrik, your thoughts on Varsity Cup? I mean, we got some info. We thought UJ were absolute good things last week. All I can say is I was so busy at work, I never even had a chance to get a bet on. I was very fortunate because I would have climbed all over it. But I didn't see the game, but Puka all over them.
Yeah, Brent, I just want to, I can just tell everyone you have to watch out who you speak to at weddings about the I got a dodgy tip on Puka being good this year. So yeah, that one backfired, and luckily the game got called off after 67 minutes, and I got my money back on UJ. But yeah, I was under the UJ 15 to 10 to win the game. But Puka, they impressed because it was a away game, so at home they should be very good. And Marty's didn't impress me. I'm interested to see how Shimlas goes because with the Bloemfontein Great College being close, Shimlas will always have a lot of talent there. So yeah, they didn't play in the first week. So yeah, interested to see how they go. And UWC apparently impressed against Ikes, but Ikes haven't been good the last few years. I think the smaller teams like Wits and UWC on the pluses could be some good bets. You could get some value there.
Yeah, I must say, for me, Wits are the side to follow. Just Peter Paul asking why the game was called off. It was called off because of lightning, if I'm not mistaken. We've had some terrible incidents up, certainly in the Highveld with lightning strikes and people being killed. And I must say, my children being involved in school sport as well. And it's a good thing, ultimately. Things like swimming galas and that, when the lightning comes anywhere within sort of 15 Ks, they just call it off. And as much as you'd love to watch the sport go ahead, it is obviously more important that no one is injured or killed. And but as you say, at the end of the day, a lucky break for punters, although I know there's a bit of controversy because some bookmakers counted that as a losing bet. I must admit, if you're a punter and you got out of jail there, you can just thank goodness for the lightning because that definitely would have been a losing bet. But it's one of those things that you would expect. And I think back to was it the Currie Cup semi-final or the last group match or something between the Bulls and the Stormers, where we were low on points and the Stormers racked in 42 in sopping conditions in the first half. So, it is one of those things. All you want as a punter at the end of the day is consistency.
Yeah, sometimes it goes your way, sometimes it goes against you. But yeah, like you say, if they do it the same every time and you get consistent, that's fine. Yeah, it was the Bulls Western Province game at Loftus the last week before the semi-finals. We were low, but we were low on Bulls points as well there.
I think we still would have shown a profit because Bulls only had scored 7 and we were low at 27.5 or something. I remember that.
On Western Province -7 and something like that. Yeah. Yeah, I would have made a profit there, but if the bookmakers are consistent, then you can't complain.
All right. Well, guys, that brings us to the end of the show. looking forward to the Six Nations and looking forward to Varsity Cup on Monday as well as we start to get into that. I'll be not sure if Wits are in action this week, but I might be looking at them on the handicap, whatever that is priced up at. Henrik, have a good weekend. Hope you have a good profitable one on the Six Nations, and likewise to you, Han.
Cheers, Brent. Thanks.
Excellent. Thanks, guys. Thanks very much for the comments in the live chat as well, guys. Next Thursday, 9 o'clock, we're all going to be to talk Super Rugby. Can't wait for all of that action as we build up in this Rugby World Cup year. Remember, you can subscribe to our channel down below. Thanks very much for watching, and we hope to see you on Good for the Game forum and on Twitter to talk rugby betting this weekend.